All right, hello everybody.
Hello.
To today's press conference, we're here with head coach Troy Taylor. We'll take questions using the raise hand feature on Zoom. We'll take questions the order that they come in. Dylan?
Hi, Coach. Yeah, so coming out of the bye week, what would you say was the biggest emphasis that you guys put into it this week? And what did you guys, really focus on ahead of a big game against Louisville?
Yeah, anytime, bye week, obviously you want to you get people healthy, get them some rest. There's a recruiting element where you get out on the road and you're able to recruit, which is really important. And then, yeah, develop some skills and that the guys are healthy, are able to practice and get better.
Troy?
Yeah, Coach Cole Tab with a terrific debut for the most part a couple weeks ago. Our first chance to really get a chance to see him. What are some ways that he differentiates himself from the rest of the running back room, and what could his role be going forward this season?
Yeah, Cole's got great short area quickness. He's a very elusive guy, hard to tackle. I think the thing that you always wonder if you're going to see it being his first game is his physicality and how, a young player will adjust and be able to run through tackles. And so that was really good to see because, you saw it in high school, but this is his first shot at this level to see how physical he was. He was a very difficult tackle. So really excited that we were able to get Cole in the game and watch, see everybody get a chance to see what he can do.
Diego?
Hey coach, you said earlier this year that you aren't always able to pay attention to the defensive side of the ball, like during the game. How does that inability to watch every play affect your understanding of the flow of the game, and how does that affect your decision making?
Well, I do watch the game when we get back, so I'll be able to watch it on video. Sometimes I'm talking to offensive players. I do get to watch quite a bit of it after we make offensive adjustments. So I'm able to see what's going on for the most part. There's just, I'll miss a couple of plays here or there in between when we change, but oftentimes there's TV breaks or whatever. So I'm able to knock them out by the time, our defense is on the field.
John?
Coach, question about Louisville. I know their defensive coordinator is a former college teammate of yours and a longtime coach in the business, former head coach Ron English.
Yep.
What do you see in the Louisville defense?
Yeah, Ron and I were the same class. He and his brother Don, twins, Ron and Don English, and both great guys. Ron is a phenomenal defensive coach and great person. He does an outstanding job with their defense. They're very deep at the defensive line. They do a lot of different things defensively. They're sound, they're fast, they're good tacklers. They present a big challenge, and he's an outstanding coach and a good friend.
Ben?
Yeah, you guys are coming off a bye week. I mean, you mentioned a couple weeks ago that getting an extra week to kind of prepare for a team makes a difference. Can you just talk about the impact that the bye week could have for you guys? You guys prepare for Louisville?
Yeah, yeah. Well, in this case, both teams had a bye week, so Louisville and us both have equal amount of time. But it does. You're right. It gets you a chance to watch the film a little bit more and digest it, and then. But I think it's good that both teams have the same amount of time. But and then getting guys healthy, I think they're going to get a safety back. It sounds like for this game. So the bye week obviously helps getting some of your players that are nicked up a little bit healthy and ready to play.
Troy?
Well, kind of along those lines, who are some folks that might potentially be back in the mix for Stanford this week now that the bye week has come and gone?
Yeah, well, we'll see. We got to, today's our first day for this week. So some of those guys were resting this week, and it's kind of a day-to-day deal, but that's kind of a wait and see thing.
John?
Coach, you watched tape, I know, of Louisville. I've tried to get bits and pieces here. I'm sort of fascinated, like the Clemson game, for example. Clemson possessed the ball for 37, 38 minutes, and there were no turnovers, yet Louisville managed to win the game on the road. I mean, again, when you've watched tape, what have you observed about Louisville this season on defense?
Yeah, well, they played great against Clemson. They were very aggressive. They played with a lot of determination, but also they were really decisive. So they were well prepared. for Clemson, and they've got great eye discipline. They swarm to the ball, and they're talented. They've done a great job in recruiting, and they've done an outstanding job. They've been a team that's lived in the transfer portal, so there's a lot of new players that they get, and they do a good job evaluating them. So, dynamic team in all three phases. The quarterback's really good, an outstanding group of wide receivers. I think it's number one is really good. The running back's physical downhill guy, and then a lot of depth on the defensive side and a lot of team speed.
Steve?
Yeah, Troy, you've been through it as a player, as a coach, a number of times. This coming Saturday is your senior day. How do you deal with that before the game, during the game? Do you change? Do you get a guy maybe who doesn't play a whole lot? Do you give him a couple of reps because he's a senior, or do you just play it the way it goes? And the fact that you have two more games after this one, does that change the dynamic at all?
Yeah, and not really in terms of who's playing. You're playing the game to win it, and put the best guys on the field. But we value, our seniors, the guys that have been here, and they've given it all, stayed for their full eligibility, and really helped this program. So we certainly value all our seniors, and that's in terms of, it's not too huge of a change. There's a little time to recognize them and have them run out in the field with their loved ones. So I think it's great. I think it's outstanding. But in terms of personnel and who we use, that won't change.
Thank you, sir.
Got it.
Kaushik?
Yeah, Coach. Obviously, I know you're aware of the house settlement, and now that schools are going to be sharing money with players. As far as I know, I don't believe Stanford's made an official statement on whether they're going to share money or not. Does that sort of make it more difficult on the recruiting trail? Maybe without the guarantee of how much money you'll sort of have.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been, there's I don't know that anybody's officially come out and said exactly what they're going to do. I think people are trying to kind of figure that out. I think it's the same thing on our sense. Obviously, revenue sharing is part of the game now moving forward, and our players and players from across the country are going to be compensated, which I think is great. They put so much into it, and so the compensation part, obviously, in any industry. When you're talking about compensation, it's going to affect the recruitment of guys coming, whether it's you're a physician or a lawyer or whatever. Those things are always going to play a part, and to think they would not that's naive. So, but there are other elements that student athletes will make a decision on as well. But my thought is that we'll be on the same plane as everybody else in terms of the distribution, that it'll be equitable, and so that our guys will get the same amount as other players and other student athletes across the country. So whatever that is, I think it's hopefully it'll be fair and equitable at all schools.
Diego?
Yeah, Coach, there were reports earlier today that seniors with remaining eligibility aren't going to be participating in the senior day festivities and senior night festivities. My question is there anyone who wants to walk that won't be able to?
Oh, I have not had any players come to me that wouldn't be walking and request to walk. So basically the premise is, and it's been a little bit different because of COVID and all of those things. Last year was unique. But what we're doing is if you have a year of eligibility left, then we're assuming you're coming back and you're going to play for the card. Now, if you're not going to, then and you let me know that you're not going to be here next year, then that's a different scenario for depending on what the reason is. Some people are, I have one player that might retire and not play anymore, then certainly they'll walk during senior day. But if we have eligibility left, unless somebody comes to me, I'm assuming they're going to be back to play for the card.
Ben?
Yeah, it seems that you guys have done a really good job at the run game. Ashton Daniels is running, has been obviously really an explosive weapon for you guys. Ryan Butler. just talk about what you kind of helped to do to kind of continue to utilize that weapon as much as possible.
Yeah.
In the final 3 games. That's been a strength I've seen.
Yeah. I think there's certainly been something that we've done a good job of in certain times in area, and it's when you're building a program, certainly running the football is gonna help you get there, and it's very difficult to win championships not running the football. So I'm not saying it can't be done. It's just it's a difficult road if you do not. So that'll always be a priority for us. We've seen improvement again. We're a young team, and so part of our improvement in the run game will be getting bigger and stronger and older, being able to retain our good young players that we have and continue to develop them. And that's really what it comes down to in college football these days is doing a good job in recruiting for sure, but also being able to retain your players, keep them here, and then develop them, and then get them better.
Troy?
Yeah, quick administrative question. I feel like I should know the answer to, but just looking for confirmation here. Is David Bailey available for the first half of this one?
Yeah, I believe he is. Yeah.
Okay.
No one's told us that he's not available.
Okay.
Thank you, Troy. Diego?
Yeah, Coach, this week is going to be your last chance to get a FBS win at home in these first 2 years in front of the students, in front of the fans. What kind of pressure does that maybe put on you as a head coach and on the program as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I think we go into every game with the same amount of pressure. We want to win them all. So the really there's no pressure in terms of that. It's just the preparation and the process of getting ready and then going out and making it happen on the field.
Kaushik?
Yeah, coach, obviously the bye week is sort of a time for everybody to sort of get healthy. I'm wondering if you have any updates on the status of Levi Rogers and Zeron Manley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Manley, he's not going to be able to return this season, or he will not return this year. And then Levi is we'll see this week. He's getting closer. He certainly is. He's more active and he's moving around, and we'll see. He's definitely getting close. So we'll see on Levi in terms of if he'll be prepared to play this week, but he's got a chance.
Thank you, John.
Coach, I know the bye week is welcome. Guys get a chance to get healed up to the extent that they're able to, just with the additional days. Take stock of the spirit of the team, and kind of, we talked on the post game about finishing strong and whatnot, but kind of what's your goal? What's your message to the team in these final 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think the spirit is really good. We had really good practices during the bye week. A great practice on Sunday. It was a longer practice, and I thought that the energy and the effort and the focus was really extraordinary. So happy about that. And this is something that I felt like the team's always given me since I've been here, and I'm sure in the past they did the same. Is just their effort, not just in games, but in practice and their preparation process that goes in the weight room and spending time in the training room. All those things, our guys have done an outstanding job.
Ben?
Yeah, kind of on that. How do you kind of keep the team's kind of spirits up when you notice, you feel that they're putting the effort in practice, maybe the result isn't what they want on game day? Yeah.
Yeah, I think right after the game, it's pretty raw and you're in a lot of pain. And I think everybody is. And then, you evaluate the tape and you learn from it. And then you get back on the horse and you try and improve and get yourself ready for the next game. The reality is in sports and competitive sports, you're win or lose, you've got to be able to move on to the next game. Now, do you feel better leaving the locker room after a win? Certainly you do. And it still hurts the next day. And then, hopefully you're able to start focusing on your next opponent, win or lose, and get ready. It's just the nature of being a competitor, and be able to get ready, for the next game.
Diego? Diego? All right, we'll come back to you, John.
Coach, another sort of big picture question. This will be the last game against ACC conference foe that we're not historically familiar with. because Cal comes after that. What's been your impression? I mean, you've seen some of these teams. You probably watched other games on tape. I'm really impressed with the quality of coaches up and down. And comment on that or other things you've noticed about this league. So your first go around in a non-West Coast based league.
Yeah, no, I'm same as you, John. It's been really impressive. The talent level is really good. I think a lot of these programs have done a great job with their infrastructure and building programs and being stable. And then I think you're right. I think the level of coaching is really good at each school. So I've been impressed. Louisville, it's not a team that I've played against. I've seen them play quite a bit on television. Studied them a little bit on tape prior to this week, but Coach Braum and his staff are really good, and they've got really good players. So this is another team that's really impressive. You look at the games that they beat a really good Clemson team, which we played, and they had even their losses were really close to Miami and to SMU, and those are two really good schools. So these guys have really good talent and have done it all year, and it's going to be a great challenge for us.
Just a quick follow-up, Coach. Have you had encounters with Coach Braum before league meetings this year? He sort of came up
a little bit. Yeah, just through the meetings. Obviously, he was a great player, a great coach, and certainly seems like a really good guy.
All right, Diego.
Hey, Coach, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, perfect. Do you have any updates on the Tristan Sinclair status?
Yeah, we'll see. Tristan is questionable at this point. What we know about Tristan is he's going to do everything in his power to get himself ready, but we ought to also make sure that he can protect himself and play at the level that he's used to playing. But if it's up to him, he certainly will play. But we got to do what's right by him and see how he progresses this week.
Steve. Steve, unfortunately, we cannot hear you. All right, we will come back. Ben?
Yeah, just Elijah Brown has one game available to play to preserve the red shirt. Just in, I'm not. Maybe you won't tell us when you'll whip him out, but just in general, kind of how do you plan to kind of navigate these last few weeks with him, generally speaking?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I would like to preserve his red shirt. I think that's great for him and the program for him to have that year. So he does have a game available. We'll just kind of take it and see how it goes game by game. I know he's getting himself prepared mentally. He's always ready to go in and do whatever he needs for the team. But whether it's this week or in the prior 2 weeks, hopefully we'll get him an opportunity to play some more. But if it doesn't happen, then he got a little bit of work and certainly excited about him and his future.
Any other questions for Coach Taylor?
Great, thanks. Go Card.
Okay. Back with wide receiver Alec Manor, we will take questions the same way we did for Coach Taylor using the raise hand function on Zoom. Troy?
Yeah, like just grand scheme of things, the season overall, I'm sure not gone how you would have planned, but what are some things going forward that you want to see this team do the final 3 weeks of the season?
Yeah, I would just say keep competing with everything that we have left. I think it shows a lot about the character of the players and the team and the leaders. When you know that the bowl game is not possible, but you still keep competing until the last snap of the last game. And so we've been doing that, and I would just like to see that continue going forward.
Thank you, Troy. John?
Alec, I know you're an assiduous tape watcher. You've looked at Louisville. Can you describe their defense for us? Maybe how it compares to some of the other ACC defenses that you've seen?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of insight on what I think about their corners if that is acceptable. But I think their corners are super athletic and long, which is something that's always hard to deal with. I think the one is like a 6-year senior. He's like 6'1", 200. The other one's like 6'1", 195, something like that. And so they're long players, and so oftentimes it can be hard to get off press with those type of guys. You have to really be able to manage the distance from them. So I think that'll be an interesting challenge. Just to be able to see how well I'll be able to handle that and how well the other receivers will be able to handle that. And just, but yeah. And overall, they're just a super athletic defense. Obviously, they've been good in the past and they did very well against Clemson. And so, yeah, it'll be another good challenge.
Troy?
They just kind of take us inside the wide receiver room as a whole, and like how guys have matured, what sort of things they've been through to kind of get to this point, because it's still a young room for the most part overall. Just kind of take us inside the maturation process of the wide receiver room this season.
Yeah, I think we've all gotten a whole bunch better. Sorry. Yeah, like every single one of us, including myself, I think has just matured so much in terms of just the fine details of being wide receivers. So that's obviously been really great to see. Obviously, some of the guys, it hasn't turned out the season as well as they had hoped, but to me, it seems really positive just where everybody is in terms of development. And it's just honestly been a great experience to see like how much better people can truly get as football players and receivers. Because obviously, when it's yourself, you can't really see it that much because you're, I mean, you see yourself every day, and so you're kind of numb to it a little bit. But when you see like when I see the other younger guys getting so much better so fast, I'm like, wow, like it really is truly crazy how much improvement some people can do in just under a year. And so, yeah, that's been great to see.
Diego?
You guys just lost your 7th game, meaning you're not bowl eligible, and you got a big rivalry game coming up next week. How do you guys avoid kind of this being a look ahead week where you kind of maybe don't have your full attention on the opponent that you're playing?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that is really built within the character of the team in general. So I don't know if it's anything that we have to do much differently or consider to try to avoid that. Um, yeah, like I said, I really just don't think that's a part of the character of the men on Stanford football. And so, yeah, I'm not really too concerned about that.
John?
Alec, going back to the wide receiver room, I'd like to ask you to comment on 2 of your teammates. You just mentioned a moment ago about younger guys and Emmett Mosley kind of coming up first year. You went through that. Well, you had a different set of circumstances, but just kind of how you help a young guy come along. And then Bryce Farrell, because he's an older guy in the room. I see him work in practice. Kind of talk about those 2 guys.
Yeah, of course. I'll start with Emmett. Yeah, like you said, he's a super young guy, but obviously he's incredibly talented, has a whole bunch of potential, and even more than that, I think he's just been playing super well. Regardless of if he is a freshman or not, I think he's been doing great things, and I think he really holds himself to a high standard, and as a result, it helps hold the rest of the receiver room to a high standard. And so, given that he's so young, I think he truly has a bright future, and honestly, he's already bright right now. And so obviously if he's going to keep getting better, you can only imagine what he'll do in the future. And then Bryce Farrell, actually he's my roommate. We live off campus together. So I get to spend a good amount of time with him. And honestly, I have so much respect for him. Like this summer, or this offseason in general, like I truly have the way he approached training, just the way he matured to be able to approach training in a completely different way was honestly like an inspiring thing to watch. When I first got back from my groin surgery in the off season, I really we really allowed each other to push ourselves to like a whole different level of training than we really thought was possible. Um, and like huge kudos to Bryce to really like taking that super seriously. Like again, I really have never experienced somebody make that big of a shift to train that hard with that much intention on such a consistent basis every single day in the summer. Like it's honestly like I truly respect him for that. It was refreshing to see. Um, and then yeah, obviously he hasn't had the season that he wanted to have, and maybe not that he thinks he deserves from the amount of work that obviously we seen him put in the summer. But this is what makes me have even more respect for him is because he doesn't really he's not taking it a bad way. Like he still comes to practice every day with like a really good attitude. He still comes to meetings every day with a really good attitude. He still comes in the locker room even when the coaches aren't around with a really good attitude. Um, and for me to see what he did and not get the results that he wanted to get, but still have that attitude, I'm like, wow, like I mean, it's like that's a high character guy right there. Like that's a Stanford man. So I have a whole bunch of respect for him.
Ben?
Yeah, just kind of curious what points of emphasis Coach Osborne has had with your unit kind of during the bye week.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we honestly just got back to the basics of what it means to be a wide receiver here. We worked on a little bit of our release work, which has kind of got away from us a little bit as we get more involved in the season, staying low, tight and skinny off the releases. And obviously, our blocking technique, we worked a little bit on that this bye week. And so, yeah, it was really just kind of a week to get back to the fundamentals of what we have been taught and kind of just give us a refresher and reminder of what those things are.
John?
Like, I don't imagine you have a lot of time to watch the NFL during a college season with all the things that you're doing, but the Stanford guys that are in your position in the NFL, you ever catch them? You ever take note of that? What Stanford guys in the NFL, just your thoughts.
Of course, I mean, obviously the Cardinals have Elijah and Mike. And so whenever I get a chance to watch their game, I'll definitely put on the tape just because, I mean, you're going to see one of them is going to be in the play on any given play. So that's been great to watch. It's been interesting to see like the role that Elijah has been taking up on the Cardinals. Like he plays tight end, but also sometimes you see him like playing fullback a bit, like really like kind of a gadget guy, which has been awesome. I mean, obviously we know he's great at receiver, but like he has that big body of a tight end and even a fullback. And so it's great to see him like be prospering in like a whole bunch of different situation and roles in that offense. And obviously they value him a whole bunch. And so that's great to see. And then obviously Mike's another one to always watch. And one thing I really started noticing recently is he plays so hard. Like he's always coming off the ball with, I mean, like his head's on fire. Like those guys really run off the ball. And so that's something that's always great to see and watch.
Any other questions for Alec? All right. Thank you so much, Alec.
Hey guys.
All right, welcome back. We will start questions with Tobin Phillips the same way we did for Alec and Coach Taylor using the raise hand function on Zoom. We will take questions as they come in. Ben?
Hey, Tobin. Just getting your thoughts on Louisville offense. What's going to kind of key for your defensive line unit to be successful against the Cardinals this weekend?
Yeah, no, they're a really talented outfit. I think they lean a lot on some young guys, some talented skill guys that have really shown out for them. Their offensive line is long and they do their job really well, but they do lean, I think, on their skill guys. So I think we have to try to take advantage of their offensive line and try to prevent as many big plays from occurring.
John?
A broader question, Tobin, the quarterbacks in the ACC, you went through a year last year where there were a lot of elite quarterbacks in the Pac-12, and they're in the NFL, a lot of them, they're in the NFL now, right? Bo Nix and Caleb Williams and Michael Penix Jr. is in Atlanta. I've been surprised by how good the quarterbacks are in the ACC. Does it feel when you're thinking about preparing for quarterbacks or out there dealing with them like last year, or is this a whole different deal?
Yeah, no, it does seem like the talent seems to follow us a little bit, but no, for me specifically, I think as a D line, we kind of don't focus too much on particulars. I think with the quarterbacks, a lot of the time we focus on mobility and time in the pocket. But at the end of the day, I feel like we kind of hone in on whatever we need to do for that week. We have played a lot of talented guys this year. I feel like our preparation for them has been pretty similar to they have been in the past years.
Troy?
Tobin, you play a position that doesn't exactly rack up the stats, so it makes it a bit more eye-popping when you rack up 2.5 sacks in a game, as you did against Wake Forest. What went right for you specifically that day? I'm sure maybe their scheme maybe helped out just a little bit there, but you know, when someone in your position has a statistical day like that, you know, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, no, it's always great to see. I'm not usually focused on stats. I really kind of think about the outcome as a defense, but it's always a plus side when we get to, when that kind of thing happens. Particularly with Wake Forest, I think their slow mesh kind of allowed for the ball to be in the backfield a little bit longer, which I think helped me get back there a little bit. But I just need to try to keep that same intensity up and try to affect the pocket as much as I can these last 3 games.
John?
Coach, Tobin, a question about the defensive line and the guys that you play, with and next. Think about Anthony Franklin. You've been next to him for a long time now. We know about the offensive line, and coordination is a big part of that. I know defensive line is different, but what's it like to have? I guess is there a familiarity there just because you've been playing alongside him for so long, and or the defensive ends? I mean, kind of take us into the coordination of the various guys on the D line, or including the edge.
Yeah, no, me and Frank, we have a lot of reps together over these last 3 years. It's been great. I think we have just a kind of chemistry that works really well with each other in pass rush and just in the run game, being able to cover each other. And then with the edges, with Teva and David and all of them, I think that over the years it's gotten a lot better. I think that chemistry, we're in different rooms and meetings and everything, so I think it didn't come as natural at first, but I think especially this year that chemistry's kind of shown a little bit more. And I'm excited the last 3 games to play with them and try to get some more good plays going.
Troy?
Yeah, 2 things here, kind of along those lines. Hypothetical, you have an ACC all honors ballot. Who from the front 7 of Stanford do you think should get a little run for some postseason honors?
Well, I'm biased. I feel like a lot of our guys put in a lot of the good work and really help bolster our better run defense that we've had this year. I think Frank for sure, Anthony Franklin, and then Teva's had an outstanding year, especially the last 3-4 games, really bolstering that up. David's also been going crazy. It's hard for me to pick specifically. I think all of our guys really shine in the shadows a little bit, so to say. I think without all of them together, I feel like our defense wouldn't be the same. So we all play a part.
Senior day coming up for you. Final walk, last chance last chance to play at Stanford Stadium. Just from a few days out, what is this day going to mean to you?
Yeah, no, I've putting off thinking about it to not get emotional because it has been my 5th year here, but it will be special for sure. Maybe not all the outcomes that we've wanted over the last few years, but it's still special to me. Being my last game here, I will definitely take it to heart. I'm excited for it.
Ben?
Yeah, just talk about the pass rush. How you feel that particular kind of area has been going for you guys, and what maybe what you guys could do to get maybe more out of that, because that certainly is a weapon that you guys can use effectively when you guys choose to implement it.
Yeah, I think our O's specifically have done a great job, especially in this last half of the season, really putting pressure on the quarterback. I feel like up front in my room specifically, we need to put just be more consistent. We've had flashes, but I feel like there's definitely times where we can be more consistent, putting pressure on the quarterback and helping out our secondary and coverage guys, so they don't have to cover as long. I feel like we can take better advantage of that.
John?
So at Stanford, they talk about lifelong learning, whether you're a football player or not. You've been on this journey for 5 years. What this year have you learned new about football, about your position, about how football relates to life from your position coach, from a teammate? What have you picked up this year that's new and maybe helped you?
Yeah, I feel like this is my 3rd year as kind of the leader of the room, and each year I just kind of get more equipped to like really help lead guys. Guys now almost 5 years younger than me in my room. It's kind of great to just kind of see how football can kind of build camaraderie across times when like you may not have something in common with somebody. I know now that a lot of the people I've come and gone with through Stanford aren't here anymore. New guys every year. I feel like this year I've really just learned that football really brings us together, and the coaches and everything, especially on the defensive staff, because that's where we spend most of our time, really help the defense kind of come together as a group.
Pauschik?
Yeah, Tobin. I think the defense this year, obviously much improved, but also too, I think just a lot of guys maybe in and out of the lineup just due to injuries, including you, I think. How do you does it sort of make it more challenging to, gel as a unit just when guys are sort of missing games or just in and out of the lineup like that?
I feel like we're well equipped to really kind of have a next man up mentality. All throughout the offseason, we swap out reps, making sure that we change up whoever's in at that time to really make sure that everyone's comfortable at the time they step in. We've had some young guys really step up and take hold of these advantages that are opportunities when other guys have been hurt, including myself. I think that they've done a great job, and I think just as time goes on, especially throughout the season, that becomes even easier for them.
John?
You partially stole my thunder with that last answer. Can you maybe name a younger guy that you've said to yourself, wow, he's really come on, or maybe it started in camp, fall camp, or whatever. But just which of the younger guys have kind of popped for you?
Well, this last game, since it was the last 4 games of the season, we saw some guys in my room who were able to play so they can maintain their redshirt year. I think Joe Asian got a lot of time in last game and really showed some impressive flashes. I'm excited. I was excited to see him play all season, and seeing him get in and make some plays was really great. I know that when I'm gone, he'll be able to contribute a lot next year, and I hope he gets to play some more this year too.
Ben?
Yeah, you guys have 3 games left. Obviously, you guys have 2 wins right now. Just how much kind of maybe pressure do you guys feel to get a win or 2 down the stretch of the season here?
I feel the pressure is the same week to week. At least it is for my room and the defense as a whole. I feel like each week we expect to win, and we do everything we can to game plan and put pressure on the other team, and do everything that we can on our side of the ball. So I feel like every week it's about the same, which is high for us to win.
Troy?
Yeah, Tobin, you mentioned at the top that Louisville seems to rely a bit more on their skill guys offensively, and they've certainly had a true freshman running back who's really come on of late. What sort of things in particular make him number 25 for Louisville a bit more on the dangerous side?
Yeah, no, he has a game-breaking speed that we've seen several times throughout the season, but he really makes sure he hits the hole and he will take it the distance. So something that we focused on these last few days, looking at them, is really just making sure that we're gap sound and staying in our gap for as long as we can, so that because he'll find the crease and the seam and really take it the distance. So we have to make sure that we can do that and bottle him up.
Any other questions for Tobin? All right, thank you so much, Tobin. We'll be right back with our kicker, Emmett Kenny.
Great, thank you guys.
All right, our final player of the day is our kicker, Emmett Kenny. We will take questions the same way we did for the first two. Ben, you're up first.
Yeah, hi Emmett. Just for you personally, how do you feel the season's gone for you so far? You've made some big kicks. I mean, maybe a couple you wish you could have back, but just how would you kind of evaluate your performance so far this season?
Yeah, I'm very, very pleased with how I've performed so far. I'm grateful for the trust that Coach Taylor has in me. Going out for some of those longer attempts, and I'm happy with my conversion rate, and I'm hoping to continue to build on it and put a few more through here in these last few games.
Troy?
I mean, you've had a pretty remarkable road to get to this point. Broken hip in your first Noe kick against Arizona State in 2021. What did it take for you to get from that point until now?
Yeah, I think going back to that game at ASU, I just remember how heartbroken I was, after that happened in my first start ever. And I think what was huge for me is just my support group and who I was around. And, the specialist room throughout my 4 years here at Stanford has been full of guys with just, amazing character. And we're able to lean on each other, and they were huge and, helping me get through that injury, not only physically, but also on the mental side as well. So, to be able to bounce back from that. And then, like you said, end up being able to take over the reins from Josh here for my senior year. There were definitely times where I wish there would have been another way that it could have gone, but I'm so grateful that I stayed here and waited my turn and learned from Josh as much as I could. And this year has just been a blast.
John?
Yeah, I mean, sticking with the subject of Josh, having watched him put through 5 field goals last night, I mean, that's a hard act to follow. Tell us, I mean, is that obviously hasn't played upon you mentally because you put pretty good numbers up, but just kind of what have you observed from he seems so gifted. That kind of tell us about kind of what you observe in him and then kind of how you play off that.
Absolutely. Josh he's phenomenal. Personally, I'm pretty sure, he's going to go on. He's going to have a Hall of Fame career if I were to have to put a bet down. Learning from him, just trying to soak up, all the different wisdom he has when it comes to our craft. He was able to impart a lot of wisdom on me, and we absolutely text back and forth. He watches my games, I watch his games, and going back to that Syracuse game where I hit the game winner at the end there, and then he kind of one up me and hit one in the NFL the next day. It's awesome having those interactions with him, and we're both living out our dream this year, and I'm thrilled with how he's done, and so grateful for that everything that he's done for my career as well.
Dylan?
Yeah, Emmett, what have you learned the most this year since becoming the full-time kicker? Obviously, the same topic as, Josh, you learned from him probably a lot, but what have you learned personally since becoming the starter on this team and being the guy who's called upon in those situations?
Absolutely. I think I've learned a lot about the importance of preparing the mental side of the game. That's where I've devoted a lot of time and energy towards going into the season and even going back into the off seasons, working with sports psychology and everything, making sure that you feel well rounded in the mental side of the game, because what we do as kickers, that's by far the most important. So by now I have it down where I have I have my breathing routine in my mental cues that I go through for every kick, and they've really helped to just help you to perform at the best of your ability. So I think being able to grow and advance my mental side of my game has been huge, and I'm looking forward to continuing to keep that going.
John?
Yeah, but take us back to September 20th. You touched upon the Syracuse game. I mean, you're your first year as a starting kicker, and it's the third game and first ACC game, and you're probably seeing what's going on that last drive. I mean, walk through your preparation. Were you kicking into the net? Were you watching each play? Like, how does Emmett Kenny? How did you prepare for that? Obviously, it was a good result.
Absolutely. I think leading up to a situation like that, the most important thing is just to not get thrown off your rhythm and to stay calm. So, when they were having their last drive there and going down, I was just hanging out alone by my net. Once they scored that touchdown, I believe, I knew that there was a chance it was going to come down to me. And from there, you really just kind of fall back on your training and go back to your natural process. I took some practice kicks in the net as we were going down. I remember we had the ball on their 45-yard line, and it was fourth down, that play that we went to Ellick on the left side. And I remember I was still kind of like, I was saying to our coaches, like, hey, like I can make this, if we want to go ahead and try the field goal here. But they made a hell of a call, and were able to get the ball down there close. And I probably waited a little bit longer than I would have wanted to have to kick it, just because, they iced me with a timeout, and then we had a false start. But all things considered, as a kicker, you have to be able to deal with obstacles like that and move past them. So from there, I just tried to, like I said, adopt my normal routine, and I was fortunate enough that I was able to go in, and that was just a moment celebrating that together with my teammates, just something that I'll never forget.
Ben?
Yeah, kind of two-part question for you. First part is just talk about the conditions at Stanford Stadium as a kicker. What's maybe unique about kicking at Stanford Stadium relative to other places you kick at? And then B, how do you prepare for a road game and the different, like, for example, you got Cal coming up after this, and then San Jose State. Just how do you prepare for kicking in road environments, and what do you do to kind of prepare for maybe the different dimensions of a stadium?
I'd say, as far as Stanford Stadium goes, I think with the layout of the stadium, the way it's built, a little bit underground, we're close to sea level here in the Bay Area. I would say it's probably one of the tougher places to kick in college, which maybe people wouldn't be able to understand. But I mean, if you go back and look at the numbers of opposing kickers, how they've done, when we were playing at home throughout my career, it's definitely not very good. It's kind of tough. The wind can tend to swirl around a little bit in there, but we're lucky enough, we get plenty of practice there during the week. The kickers go down, and we're able to try to figure out our different strategies for how we want to play certain kicks. So it's something that I don't even think about at this point. But if you were to ask an opposing kicker, I'm sure they would tell you maybe it's a little bit tougher than some of the other places they've played. And as far as the away games, really, I just try to treat them all the same. It's exciting with Cal coming up, all the pageantry that's associated with the big game. There's going to be a big crowd and a huge environment and everything like that. But, we don't really think about that. Once we're on the field, it's really just us and the ball, and we're focused on doing our job and not anything else. And obviously going through pregame warmups, try to figure out where the wind is going, come up with a solid plan. And then from there, once you get on the field, just trust it.
Troy?
Yeah, I mean, as a kicker, how active are you in, the game planning as far as field goal protection is concerned, preventing the other guy from blocking the kick? Are you an active participant in that, or is it just, hey, I just go out there and kick the ball through the uprights?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have an active role in the protection, but the only thing that is making sure that we're getting the ball off under 1.3 seconds. Really, that's the only thing that they worry about with us is, they don't really, we don't talk about protection or anything like that. We leave it up to the coaches because they have experience and they're good at what they do. But the biggest thing on us to help the line out ourselves is to make sure, like I said, we're right around that 1.28 second mark from snap to kick. And so that's something that we practice, going through the snap, hold, kick operation and practice every day. And something that we've done a good job with so far. And so, we're just going to try to keep that going.
John?
Talk about the kickoff a little bit. Do you kick it off the same way every time? I guess the answer is no, because we see what you do. I mean, sometimes they're line drive, maybe the guys get it under the wind. Sometimes you get it really high. Does it vary game to game? And kind of what are the strategies on kicking off?
Yeah, with kicking, you really like to make sure everything is kind of baseline. You don't want to be changing with what you're trying to do too often. But it's absolutely true that sometimes, if you're going into the wind and you hit it, with your normal trajectory, that's going to get hung up there and it's going to end up going, in a little bit shorter than it would normally. But, if you're going to that wind, you're able to drive it out a little bit. Still, the wind will hold it up to give you a little bit more hang time and you'll be able to make up for it distance wise. So I take some of those things into consideration. But really, I just try to put my head down and give the ball a good swing and strive for touchbacks. But even if it's not a touchback, I have trust that our coverage team is going to be able to get the job done, which we've reflected. Getting a lot of tackles in the black zone so far this year, as we like to say, inside the 20-yard line.
Ben?
Yeah, kind of on the kickoff. What's the philosophy for tackling for you? Obviously, they don't want you getting hurt. Do they tell you to pull back at all? What's kind of the message on the kickoff? Obviously, you guys in front of you got to do your job, but is there any? Do they tell you what's the philosophy on tackling as a kicker? Yeah, what do they tell you?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we have pads on just like everybody else. We're expected that we have to be able to make a play if our number's called upon. So, we've been a part of some of the, tackling drills throughout the spring and the off season. And really, I think the biggest thing just, for someone like in my position is to go low. Because some of these athletes, they have a lower center of mass than me. They're incredibly quick and strong. So, in those situations, you just try to go low, catch up their feet and help out your team, because at the end of the day, that's our obligation.
John?
Can you take us through how you became a kicker? I assume that at some point in maybe middle school, you discovered you kind of have a gift, but you're probably also playing other positions in football. So did you play other positions? And then when did you sort of conclude that, all right, my best chance to take this football thing as far as I can go is to kick the football, maybe as opposed to punting or something else? But take us through your evolution to get where you are now in terms of discovering your talent.
Yeah, I think my origin most likely started out just with my roots in soccer. Growing up, I'd always loved playing soccer. I started it from a young age, and my close friend group that I had in high school, they were kind of more on the football side. So, I'd played a little bit of wide receiver, but I had a couple injuries even as early as middle school. So, I knew I didn't really want to keep, going down the path of playing wide out, but at the same time, I wanted to be able to spend time with my friends through being on the team. So I found just that the perfect merge of that was through kicking. And, I started picking it up probably more seriously in middle school, just trying to mess around with it, see if I might have a future in it. And then I think it was my sophomore year in high school. I realized, I had an aptitude for it. I started going to camps every summer after that. And I was able to, start for 2 seasons, my junior, my senior year back in high school kicking. And my junior year was a little bit quiet. I didn't have any offers until summer going into my senior year. So, I was a little bit late to the party in terms of going to camps and trying to get out. And it's hard to be noticed when you're coming from a state like North Dakota. But thankfully, everything worked out and I was able to catch Stanford's eye, through writing a handwritten letter and sending a DM and everything like that. So, I'm so grateful that it all worked out the way it did. And that I'm here, at my dream school.
Look, if I may follow up, Coach Alomar at the time, I mean, he was very good at recruiting kickers that obviously we see. Last night we saw a punter and we saw a kicker. I mean, so for you to be in that conversation, to be recruited by him is sort of a stamp. Kind of, was he the guy that you were working with or that made all this happen?
Yeah, I think Coach Moran, who was our assistant back when I was coming in, he was kind of the one who found me on Twitter. And then, from there, I started my dialogue with Coach Alomar. And, I have a lot of love and appreciation for Coach A. He did so much for me, taking a chance on me, even though, coming from a lesser recruited state and, giving me a walk-on opportunity. Just being here now is, working my way up to being a scholarship athlete. I have to thank him so much for that opportunity. He's over there at Rice and he's, got the win in his first interim head coach game. So I'm very happy for him. that he's doing well in his new adventures. But yeah, like you said, he's put out a lot of great specialists, and I absolutely, want to be a part of that contingency that goes on to play in the next level. Because like I mentioned, there's a long line of kickers and punters that Coach Almar has done just a tremendous job with. So I'm grateful for everything he taught me, and I'm glad that, like I said, that he's doing well in his new journey.
Ben?
This might be a silly question, but being a Stanford guy, you've obviously taken a lot of different mathematics courses, calculus, trig, geometry, I'm sure. So how much does kind of your study of any sort of study of mathematics factor into kicking, like in terms of angles? Do you think about, okay, this is like a 45-degree angle or 90-degree angle, or just kind of study of angles? What with wind, just how much of a mathematical component is there to how you go about kicking both for kickoff and field goals?
Yeah, I think this might be something that maybe I depart with other kickers on, but for me, when it comes to trying to crunch numbers and make the game super scientific, I don't really like to do that. For me, I'm trying to get rid of all the unnecessary clutter that's going on in my mind leading up to kicks. So for me, I have a consistent way that I like to play the ball. I line up just a little bit right of center, and or rather my aiming point, I should say. And then from there, I really just try to shut my brain off and, just fall back on my training. I find that's giving me the best results. I know I'm sure for other people, maybe they have, a formula. Maybe there's a Bryson DeChambeau of kicking out there. But, for me, I think what I'm most comfortable with is just trusting the training that I've put in, turn my brain off and just get into that flow state and let it rip once I get out there.
John?
Last one for me, and I just can't resist because it's sort of a funky part of your job, and that's the onside kick. We watched Josh try the onside kick last night. It didn't work the way he wanted to, and I've been watching onside kicks for 40 years, and seems to be no standard way, and it seems like luck of the draw if one of those things gets through. Do you have your own philosophy about that, and how often do you practice onside kicks?
We practice onside kicks every week. Something we set aside time for it every Tuesday because it can change the outcome of a game single-handedly. So as far as the kick itself, I do have a few different ways that I can try to kick them. Obviously I'll keep that close to the chest just in case we need any of those going into these last few games. But it's something that we put time in because it's an important aspect of our job, and something that I'm absolutely working on perfecting.
Any other questions for Emmett?